Alright, everybody, welcome back to the pod. Sorry, it has been a while. I know. I haven't forgotten. I just stopped recording about the 4 agreements. But here we go, pages 86, 87, 88. I have not forgotten, guys. Don't worry. In all honesty, I've had a lot going on. You guys hear what I post about. I've had a lot going on, and it takes time away from some of the other things. Sometimes when I'm recording certain stuff, it's because I'm studying a certain topic, and sometimes it does help me to kind of actively put it down to the side and then refocus on it at a later period and see what growth has come along the way. I will say, honestly, if I just reflect a bit from this book, just to talk about it a bit before I start talking about it some more and reading about the next pages, I'm learning a lot. I've engaged more with doctors, as far as, for my own personal health, not really for like educational reasons necessarily. And I'm kind of, listening to what they say and seeing kind of where they go with things, of what they recommend for me. I mean, some of it is just stuff that I need to hear all the time. But also, one thing I'm noticing is that a lot of providers don't really give like actionable steps for things. So, for example, for the most part, most of us know, if you're having some kind of issues coming up, usually it's something along the lines of one or a combination of something psychological that could be like an emotional situation, or maybe like something from your past that's affecting your mood and emotions currently. That's kind of one category. Another category is kind of like physical health, like your body. What's your body doing? Are you in pain? Do you not feel well? What's your brain doing, like cognitively? Are you able to focus? Are you able to center? Are you able to kind of, be alert? And like, do you need some kind of supplement? Like, do you need caffeine? Do you need melatonin? Like, does something have to help you go to sleep, or does something have to help you kind of get rolling in the daytime? What does your day look like? Like what actually comes up? Like usually, or is it like some kind of a spiritual matter? Usually you're usually gonna find something within those categories, and it is all combined in a lot of ways, right? But you're rarely gonna find something that doesn't fit in one of those areas. Like, you're rarely going to come across something where nobody's going to know what to do, or no one professional is going to have anything to recommend. Even if they might not have the exact right answers, they usually kind of know what to recommend. But one thing I'm noticing with a lot of providers, some providers, is that they might identify issues, based on tests, or based on something else. But I feel like the thing that they kind of miss sometimes is that they don't really give you like direct steps. So, for example, if I'm working on my physical health and I come in, like I came in, I don't mind sharing. It's kind of personal, but I don't really mind sharing. I was like, my main concerns were things like, I get irritable easily. I, have trouble sleeping. I don't feel very rested in the morning when I wake up, and when I'm trying to like get my work done, I get kind of foggy, I find myself a little like not so clear all the time. Not all the time, but some days I just feel like off. And it comes and goes. And sometimes it's likely a blood sugar thing. Sometimes it's likely an insomnia thing. Sometimes it's likely a caffeine thing. Sometimes it's likely a trauma trigger type of thing. like there's many ways that something can go within the day that's gonna make it so some of these issues are gonna come up for like a day or two or half a week or something like that. But usually it's not like every single day the same problem all the time every day. Like it's not always like that. And so I do know that it's like whatever decisions and choices I'm making kind of make it so some of these issues kind of occur. You know, if I'm pushing too hard and staying up too late and then not sleeping enough, of course I'm not going to feel like energetic. You know, if my blood sugar is low, of course I'm going to be all grouchy and irritable with other people and very like short fused, you know, like and it's up to me to do these things. It's up to me to eat and get my food, like prioritize eating the meals on time and not pushing past, you know, when I need to actually have proper food, or like actually having proper nutrition instead of just eating any old thing like a McDonald's burger versus like, you know, some kind of like healthier food from home that I cook by myself, with fresh garden vegetables and fruits and, you know, healthy food that's organic, from like the local like co-op type of market versus like some weird GMO thing, some gigantic chicken that we get from like some weird store, from like the mainstream branch stores and things. Like I'm aware that, you know, if I make decisions to partake in those types of activities or foods, my my day or my next few hours isn't gonna it's gonna be basically affected by how I feed myself, either mentally feed myself or emotionally feed myself or physically feed myself with food or water or whatever it may be. You know, the output of what I put in is gonna be something, and I might not always like what that output is, even if I'm putting something in that I like. Like sometimes I like staying up late working on projects because I'm having fun with the projects. Sometimes I like drinking caffeine when I shouldn't drink caffeine because it feels good, and I like the feeling of having energy more than I like the feeling of not having energy. You know, I like the feeling of being able to think alertly and clearly and smoothly versus like every single like complex thought process is like, you know, a little bit painful, like because it's a little bit stressful to kind of like think really hard about things when my brain is super foggy, and you know it's a little frustrating when, you know, I'm not processing things as fast, and if I'm stressed out, you know, from it because I need to be moving faster but I'm not, you know, that can be a frustrating thing. Or if I want to go and make more money and do deliveries or something like that, but then I'm just like my energy is just tanking and I'm starting to get kind of like agitated and like a little bit stressed out about driving in traffic and stuff. And it's like, you know, a lot of things I'm doing right now are optional. So it is kind of an interesting way for me to test out things in my lifestyle. But I'm basically just noticing that, you know, when I talk to doctors, you know, they don't really tend to give steps. It's like it seems to be up to me, other than when they say, okay, take this medicine or take this supplement or take this thing at these times and this day and then come back to an appointment at this time or go to this other specialist for this reason and do that get inspected in that way and then come back and we'll look at the results and we'll talk about the next steps. Like usually it's kind of like that, like, but they usually don't give a whole lot in between of what to be doing. They're not like, okay, you need to start doing this at this time and start doing that at that time. Like they don't really give like a lot of like scheduling advice. And I've noticed that with psychologists too. It's like sometimes they're just like, oh, we're gonna talk like in theory about like your anxiety or about depression or about whatever, and try to get to know you and try to talk about these different things, and see what's coming up. But they don't seem to really directly challenge anything too intensive. They don't really seem to, you know, sometimes understand things. One thing that I've noticed about people in the health profession is that a lot of them have a very strong lack of understanding of cannabis. That's something that to me is very odd. Um, Especially because where I live, it's been legal for a while now and for like multiple years. And it's kind of interesting that they don't educate themselves about it. And a lot of them don't really see it as medicinal in any way, or don't even like seem to explore that it could potentially be something medicinal. They kind of just like want you to take what they want you to take. And that's something that I've never really fully understood. But anyways, I'm rambling. I know, I'm sorry, but that's just kind of what was on my mind. Um, some reason reading these pages kind of put all that on my mind. And so I wanted to talk about, because I didn't have a whole lot to say, but that was kind of what was on my mind. So basically, on pages 86 to 87, the main topic they discuss is repetition for mastery. And so it's like they talk about, most of the things we've learned in our lives that we get good at is because we've repeated them often, and that's how we improved at it, right? We didn't just like see it and observe that, like, hey, I don't really know how to, whatever it may be, like write in cursive or something like that. Like, most of us had to write like letter by letter and keep writing like on the different lines and do this for like quite a while until we kind of understood how to actually write like that smoothly, so that you're not like looking back at the manual and like, okay, this is an A, this is an R, like you memorized it after a while. And I like how on page 87 it talks about your own body is a manifestation of God. That to me seems to be a very powerful topic, because right before that they started talking about, do what feels good for your body, do what your body needs, focus on what your body actually needs you to be doing. And I believe when they say body, they mean just like your whole self, not just like your physical body, but it's like, if psychologically you need time, take time. Right now, I mean, I talk to my close friends about this, but right now, in all honesty, I am in the weirdest ego struggle that I've ever had, because, people who are maybe like me in the Western world, who grew up, as millennials with this kind of expectation that, you're going to go to school, you're going to get a degree, you might get a couple degrees, then you're going to go into a field and you're going to work your way up in that field, until you're pretty financially stable and successful, and you're going to retire in that field. Most people I know, not all, well, a great amount of people I know that are millennials, a lot of us are on our second or third career. That's not uncommon. I think a lot of us maybe embarked on a third career during the Rona, when we realized what we really kind of have passions about. And a lot of us before that were in like a second career. And a lot of us before that were in school for some reason, going into a field, and then maybe we took a hard left or a hard right, or whatever happened along the way. Like, I've had friends in a lot of fields that aren't in the field that they got their bachelor's in, or the field that they were, thinking they were going to be in. You kind of develop interest in different things, and life kind of just leads you into certain jobs. But for me, the weirdest ego struggle that I'm having is this kind of toss up between following what I need to follow for my own self, for my own body, for my own mind, for my own soul, and then having such this strong connection towards needing to make money and wanting to appear successful, and kind of like at the same level as peers, because I've got a lot of friends that are successful. I mean, we live in Southern California. We live in a very expensive environment, so most of the people I know are working pretty hard to try to make quite a bit of money. And even if you're making like $15 to $18 an hour, usually you can't really live off that out here. And that is almost decent money for a lot of places in the US. If you're making like $18 an hour, you're I mean, now I don't know with the economy. I don't really know like the cost of living everywhere, but out here you can't really live off that independently without like sharing housing or like doing stuff like that. Like you usually have to be making like really if you're making like near $40 an hour, and if you consider like after taxes, usually about $40 an hour you can kind of get like a studio, maybe one bedroom out here, and still be able to kind of afford the other stuff you need as well as save a little bit, if that's your only source of income from one job. Making that much money a month, making that much money hourly, full time, with benefits. That's pretty much what that looks like. And so to make that amount of money, usually you have to have some kind of education or a lot of experience or a lot of skills that you've developed to be able to kind of get that kind of pay rate, or build something from the ground up by yourself and learn how to do that so that you can get the pay that you feel like you need so you can live independently. So there's definitely this pressure to be like, oh, like millennials and Western culture living in a city. Like usually it's like, okay, you're expected to kind of have your own place, your own spot, or have a partner and you're kind of like living together and having your own spot and being able to afford that. And I'm kind of in this situation where I'm like, okay, I could take a couple job opportunities that won't pay me what I need to be paid to live independently, and I'd still have to have housemates, but I'd still have money and be able to afford to party and do all this other stuff. But I'd also not have the time and energy to take care of myself the way that I need to for my own personal health, because I'd be so overwhelmed and bogged down by these jobs, or the one job, but one of the two jobs, because I couldn't take both of them because they're both full-time. But basically, if I took one of them, that would be the scenario. And I would maybe feel better about myself, like ego-wise. I'd be like, yeah, I'm working full-time in this career position. But mind you, these positions, I would not be able to move up. So even if I stayed there 5 years, 10 years, I would never be able to become like a director or an owner of anything. I would stay at the same position forever, basically. I would be required to get licensed. That would be the only way to bump me up to a higher position, but that would also mean taking that time to get licensed and taking all these exams and then going into and it takes years to get licensed, and then going into either a private practice or group practice or something like that. And so that's a whole process in and of itself that I would be forced to participate in, that I don't want to do. Like, I don't want to be a licensed clinician, I don't really want to do clinical work like that. I feel like the version of clinical work I do is this kind of stuff where I'm talking about things that are potentially psychologically beneficial for people, for food for thought. And I do some volunteer work with like 7 Cups for certain underserved populations of groups of people, just to kind of provide some kind of emotional peer support on there. But I don't, and I write, but I don't really do a lot of, office clinic care, like in clinic care through like a county site or anything like that. I'm not really interested in doing that. So yeah, taking care of your mind and your body and all those things is very important. It's very important to do, but the struggle that I run into is, my ego tells me, yeah, like, this doesn't really look good. Like, it doesn't really look good to be like not having a traditional job, or not having like, a traditional 9 to 5, or not having like all these other things that I see other people having. And then another part of me is like, well, this is what I need for my schedule right now, so that I can pick and choose, how I feel on what days, and then tailor my schedule according. Like, I need so much flexibility right now to be able to kind of like take care of my health the way that I need to. Otherwise, you know, like, I'm learning, like, I'm noticing that, like, I don't feel evenly, evenly energetic and, happy, and like, like I'm able to smoothly go through every day. Even it's not even. Like, some days I have way more energy than others. Some days I have way less energy than others. And like I said in the beginning, it's about like making sure that all the smaller choices I make are pretty much on point, to try to make sure that I can predict how I'm going to feel in the next hours for the rest of the day and then the next day, versus just winging it and seeing like, oh, maybe I'm going to eat a bunch of Oreos between breakfast and lunch, and then I'm going to wonder why I don't feel good by like 5 p.m. I'm going to be like, why do I feel this way? I feel like crap, so um just kind of noticing things like that, where I'm like, okay, like, I kind of understand where I go wrong a lot of the time, but I'm not actually um like, I'm not actually like making those mistakes like on purpose so much. It's just, I'm trying to get to a point where it's not like so instantaneous of a decision, where I'm just like, oh, look, cookies, and just like start eating them. Or, oh, look, we got a new box of chips. Like, my folks get like those boxes of variety chips of like 60 chips or whatever, and it's like, it's too tempting. It's like, get this away, like, I'm gonna eat it, obviously. If it's there, I'm not gonna be able to avoid it as much as I want to. So things like that, like trying to make the decisions. But with page 87, how it says your own body is a manifestation of God, and talking about, paying attention to your body and not really making those instantaneous, that's how I take it. Like, don't make those instantaneous bad decisions. Like, think them through a little bit more. Think through the decisions a little bit more. Be a little bit mindful with every decision. One thing I'm trying to work on too is doing less multitasking, because I notice I just like, when I'm doing one thing, I have this kind of desire, or like, I don't know if it's an impulse. It's almost an impulse, but I can resist it. And I don't think I'm that uncomfortable with it. But I've gotten into a bad habit of multitasking. So it's like, say for example, I come home, I want to eat lunch at home, and I might watch a movie while I'm eating lunch. Now, do I need to watch a movie? No. Can I sit there in silence and eat my food? Yes. But it's just kind of like a thing that I do, It's like, it's fun to watch a movie and eat. It's fun to watch an episode of some show and eat. A lot of people do that, right? And that's one example of multitasking. And another example is, in the mornings, like when I'm getting ready and stuff, like sometimes, I'll put on like, I don't want to be rude, but I've kind of stopped listening to Ken Coleman's show. Don't shoot me over that. I was liking it and I enjoyed it for a time. I'm putting it down for now. I don't know. There's just something about it that I just can't really vibe with. I don't really understand exactly what. But lately I've been just kind of like, the topics feel a little negative, or they feel a little like superficial and like weird to me. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the topics lately, but I'm just kind of like, I don't really want to hear about the kind of articles that he's reviewing. Like, to me, they're kind of not my cup of tea anymore. They kind of were, but now they're kind of like, I feel like I don't get direct value out of thinking about why do people in Gen Z prefer, entrepreneurial work? Like, what does that have to do with me? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't really know. I mean, other than like content creation, like to create content for people who might be from Gen Z and, things that might appeal to them, that might be helpful to them, I don't really see any other reasons why I would need to know that. That's really the only reason I could think of, is to like make something that would be helpful for a younger generation. Because I have started kind of wanting to do projects like that, where it's like, appealing to Gen Z and kind of like trying to be like this next generation of, if I have something that can help them or that I can say, because I learn a lot from Gen Z on my own. Like, I don't like directly know anybody who's like a Gen Zer, that's in my personal social circles right now. Like, I know, like, some of my friends have kids and things like that are like of Gen Z, but most of the people I know are kind of my own age that I hang out with, or still within like the millennial range. Um, but yeah, I, I don't really have this like negative view of Gen Zers. I don't look at them and look down on them and be like, man, like, why are they like this? They don't want to work. And like, there's a part of me that kind of gets it. And I'm just like, these guys have figured it out, that we're in this freaking matrix, and it's not working. Like, it works if you're at the top, or it works if you just kind of shut off your brain and just go through the motions. But I feel like most of us during the Rona kind of realized, we started realizing what we really value. And that's why so many people were changing a lot in their lives. You saw so many people, unfortunately, have to get divorced because they're like, I'm spending all this time with this person, living in this house with this person, and I don't want to be here. I don't want to be with them. Like, the more time you're together, it just wasn't working. The financial strains, people started spending their money differently, realizing, hey, when I can't do anything, what do I actually feel like doing? Okay, things like gardening and personal development and, maybe working on my health. A lot of people got into mental health support, receiving mental health support. And I think there was a lot of it because people needed that support, but also I feel like people started becoming open to it, and they started realizing that they could work on themselves. Like, they could learn things from professionals that could help them to actively work on themselves and, work towards what they value. And, I feel like Gen Zers have figured out, they know what they value and they know what they want to do. And they're not really just going to settle just because everybody says, go to school, get a degree, go get a job, with that degree, and just suck it up and do that because that's what you were told to do. They're like, well, we can sit here on our computers or like think of ideas to creatively make money and support ourselves. And I'd rather grind on my own personal projects and on my own, creative, endeavors, and have that support my life with passion, not necessarily with like fleeting dreams. It's not like oh, this is like a fantasy kind of world where like they're not really thinking it through. But I feel like also there's not a lot of content out there that kind of trains people to think for themselves and actually like build for themselves, because a lot of people can do that and they will do that if they aren't worked to the bone so hard that they don't have energy to do it. And I'm noticing that in this time period that I'm having, that I'm like, okay, well, when I'm not like under the pressure of a client caseload or under the pressure of something else, like I was thinking, oh man, I'm gonna struggle so hard having time away from like a 9-to-5 job, because it's gonna be so hard for me, because I might fall into depression and want to sleep in every day and not wake up And it's like I wake up earlier now than I did when I was working a 9 to 5. It's 8:42 p.m. right now, and I'm working on podcasts and writing, and cuz I'm passionate about it and I want to do it. And, if it were a 9 to 5 where somebody was telling me you have to do this at this time, you have to do that at that time. I mean, there is a benefit to that, but also it's like, I mean, it's hard to do it that way when you don't really care to do certain tasks. When it's like, what am I getting out of this? How is this benefiting my personal development just to sit here and do this job, this other job, this 9 to 5 that I'm like assigned to do just so I can pay my rent or whatever? It's like, I feel that. I get that. I understand why people want to do their own thing, because it feels better. There's more value to it. I feel like your life can be a lot healthier. It might be more stressful too, but it's kind of because of how our society is set up currently, that it's like, well, you have to be making all this money for things to work smoothly. But also, if you can scale your own income, you're not saying, hey, I need to make, I can only make $15 an hour. Regardless how hard I work, I'm only going to make $15 an hour at a job that pays $15 an hour. It's not like that. If you kind of have your own things that you can scale, then sometimes you can make more money based on the effort you put in. And if it's something that you love doing, you'll be up sometimes later creating content and working, not like working like so much that you're not sleeping or anything. I'm not saying that you don't need to balance your life, but it's kind of like you'll work more when you love what you're doing. I mean, I love my schedule, I'm happy when I wake up. Like, I wake up and I rarely go back to sleep. It's like, I don't care if it's 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, 6 o'clock in the morning, let's have some coffee. Let's start podcasting. Like, that's what I want to do. I'm not like, oh, let me go back to sleep just like 5 more minutes, just like 10 more minutes. Like, I will lay there a little bit, but I'm actually like excited to start my day. And when I was working, I was like, man, like when I was starting work remotely at 8 o'clock, I would have my alarm set for however long it took me to brew coffee, go to the bathroom while I'm brewing coffee, and log into my computer while the coffee's cooling off. So maybe like 20 minutes before work, I was like struggling to get out of bed, and I'm like, dude, like, I rarely am still in bed at 7:40 a.m. just like trying to get out of bed. I'm like, I've been up for like an hour or two by that point most days. Like, I'm ready to go. I want to go. Like, I want to do this. I want to go out and make some cash doing these other things and use that cash to support my other projects. That's what I want to do. I enjoy myself doing it. Will I do this forever? I don't know. Is it something I can sustain forever? I don't know. But it's worth trying, I feel like. And I feel like a lot of Gen Zers kind of have that same attitude where they're like, they've been raised online and they see the potential of what you can do with your own creativity and kind of with your own passions. And it's not like a pipe dream where you're just like, oh, like, I wish. It's like a lot of Gen Zers are so, skilled and very, they have a lot of skills, a lot of life skills. And a lot of people say, a lot of people who are boomers, and other generations look at Gen Zers and they're like, man, like, they don't know how to do anything. Dude, ask them to build you a website. Ask them about content creation. Ask them about, marketing content. Ask them about all these types of things. They know about it. They know how to do it. They could do this just because it's what they know how to do. There's a lot of skills that they have, and I'm not just talking online skills, but definitely, they have a lot more skills than, it's not like they're just sitting around all day watching television. Like, I feel like television is something that most of us don't, I don't know. Maybe a lot of people watch it, but I don't. I know a lot of people that don't watch TV, and maybe that's just, like, people watch shows, but it's more like apps and like different stuff like that. But yeah, I try not to shit on Gen Zers, because I'm like, dude, like, I admire them, like, I really do. I'm not one of them. I'm kind of old. I'm in my late 30s, but I'm gonna be 40 very soon, and but I do admire the work that they put in. And so yeah. Yeah, so these pages were talking about focus on healing of the body and doing right by your own body. Um that is something that, I feel like most of us are kind of taught to ignore, doing right by your own body. A lot of us are unfortunately taught, let the pressures of, capitalism kind of lead what you're going to do. And I feel like that's kind of where I am right now. I'm kind of in this state of, do I go with my passions, or do I go with the pressure of capitalism? But already, I mean, I'm already kind of odd. Like, I'm already kind of that person that, like, people can't really peg, like, what is up with you. Like, people try to get to know me, and I get it a lot that people are often just like, you're kind of a little bit of an oddball, a little bit awkward, a little bit strange. I like to think, I like to create. Most people I know don't really care about that kind of stuff. They like to consume and buy stuff, and I kind of don't care about any of that most of the time. I'm like, I have a problem with, like, letting things get so raggedy that I have to, like, go out of my way to be like, oh shoot, maybe I should, like, not wear this because it has holes in it. Like, it's not that I don't care about my appearance, but it's just like, I don't think about it like that. Like, I got some shirts that I really liked, and then on one of my friend's birthdays, they were like, the last 3 times I've seen you, you've been wearing the same outfit. And I was like, that's right, I bought these shirts like a year and a half ago. These shirts are actually old, even though they're my newest shirts. Probably they're the shirts I like the most, but I really only have 3 of them, and I only really wear those 3 t-shirts when I'm, like, out of the house, or I have some button downs that are kind of new and stuff. But it's like, I have clothes that, like, I have to, like, think about it, and I'm like, okay, last time when I went and did this, I kind of wore this other thing. I need to, like, switch it up a little bit. Or, like, okay, like, this is kind of falling apart. Like, I don't know how many times I've told myself I need to, like, get another wallet because it's literally ripping. And, like, I've had the same freaking wallet since, like, Miller's Outpost existed, like, in 7th grade or something. Like, it's like, I just don't care. Like, there's some stuff I'm like, I just don't care, like, to really upgrade things. Like, if it's still working, I don't care. That's how I've kept my car for, like, 21 freaking years. It's like, do I really need to spend money upgrading this? Like, I've spent plenty of money doing other things that I really enjoyed and found valuable. I don't think I would have found it that valuable to spend, like, $30,000 on a brand new car. It's like, I'd rather spend $30,000 going to raves, like, and traveling around and snowboarding. Like, to me, that's a lot more fun. But I don't know, everyone has their own things that they enjoy. But yeah, I know I'm a bit of an oddball, and I think a bit strangely compared to a lot of people. I spend a lot of time in my own mind. I like to spend time thinking and, challenging different things that I've learned. Like, not necessarily to challenge them, like, in a negative way, but, and to be, like, down with this and down with that. But, sometimes I'm like, I see that certain things aren't working for me, and then I look around more, and I'm like, well, they're not working for any of us. So, like, why is nobody talking about this? It's like, well, if we're all suffering from these same things, then why do we keep doing them? And I think that's one of the things, is, like, our bodies deteriorate, our minds are deteriorating. So many people need help. So many people need to slow life down. So many people need to take a year off, or take a break, or take 6 months off, or take 3 months off. I mean, it's not ideal for me to, like, stay at home with my folks and, like, do what I'm doing, but it's like, well, I found ways to make money to support what I need to do, so I'm making money that way, and that's just how it's going to be. Like, and it doesn't look glamorous, but I'm able to take care of my body and take care of my mind at this time while I'm doing these things. And so it's it's something that I'm trying to come to terms with. And there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure for me to try to change it to look like what everybody else is doing, but also I've almost never done anything that looks like what anybody else is doing. I mean, I'm a female. I don't dress like hardly any females I've ever met. I don't have the same clothing style. I don't have the same interests as most females I know. Most people who are my ethnicity and race usually kind of stereotypically have other things that they might be interested in or other spaces that they find themselves in. I've rarely found anybody who is like me in most of the spaces where I hang out. I mean, we exist, we're out there, but it's like people like me tend to kind of have a very eclectic taste for, social types of experiences. Like, I like knowing a little bit of every kind of person. I'm not very comfortable when I'm with like too much homogenous anything. Like, I like the rainbow all the time. It's like, if I'm gonna go to some religious service, I want it to be other people of other religions too. I don't want it to be like, oh, all these people are this religion. Like, no, I want to go to a religious function where there's all types of religions. It's like, they don't really have stuff like that. Usually people stick to their own, you know? But I don't know, like, it's really hard to explain. I kind of just do me. There was a quote that I wanted to end with, but I don't know if I'm gonna find it because it's dark and I'm trying to read this. Okay, so so page 88, it says the 4 agreements are a summary of the mastery of transformation. One of the masteries of the Toltec. And so basically it's explaining that, you transform hell into heaven, and basically where your mind is and how you kind of treat yourself is kind of how things are going to unfold. So it's not going to be likely that we can neglect everything about us, every kind of natural thing about us, just neglect it and then expect that our lives are going to look the way that we want them to look, and then it also mentions those other agreements, about being impeccable with your word, not taking anything personally, not making assumptions, always doing your best, and then your life just completely always falling apart if you're following those 4 agreements. And I'm not too familiar with Toltec culture. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty ashamed to say that I think the only maybe like prejudiced version of exposure to Toltec culture, and I don't even know if it was Toltec, but I think there was this show, it was like a game show on Nickelodeon or something called Legends of the Hidden Temple, and I think there was like some rock that was talking, and I think his name was Olmec or something like that. I don't know if that was supposed to be Toltec culture. I don't really know. Like, let me look that up because I don't even really know what I'm talking about when I say that. But for some reason, I don't know why I'm thinking that. Maybe because the name Olmec sounds like Toltec. But let me see if I can look that up at all. I'm looking it up right now. Legends of the Hidden Temple. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's from 1993. Um, I don't know. Let me see. I don't know what kind of culture it was supposed to be. Let me look up Olmec. If I look up Olmec and Toltec. Well, there's one thing. Let me see. So it says, who were the Toltecs and Olmecs? The Toltec civilization was a civilization sandwiched between the Olmec civilization and Aztec civilization that controlled Mesoamerica from the 1900s CE through 1100s CE. They used knowledge handed down to them from the Olmecs to create a culture and society that was highly advanced, religious, and warlike. And so, yeah, if the Toltecs, so basically this book that we're looking at is based on, Toltec wisdom, and if the Toltecs got a lot of their wisdom from the Olmecs, then that would be technically where a lot of maybe some of their traditions and beliefs came from. But yeah, I don't know how that came to my mind, that Legends of the Hidden Temple, and Olmec was that head that was talking, that rock, that stone head that was talking. I don't know. I don't know if they mentioned that, or if I just thought of that, or if I heard it somewhere else before. But yeah, I guess there is some kind of relation. But I don't know why that came to my mind. But it's very interesting. I find it to be very interesting. Because a lot of ancient civilizations that disappeared or got wiped out or whatever happened, because there's a variety of things that happen to different cultures. There's so much wisdom that we don't get in mainstream Western society, and I think that's why, when I'm talking about this book, a lot of people gravitate towards it. It's like, it's hard for me to take my Western mind out of these things and be like, because I can only give one interpretation, even when I'm trying to think outside of the box and trying to apply these things to my own life. It's like, I already know we're stuck in this Western capitalistic culture, so it's like, at the end of the day, I've still got to try to make sure I can eat and live in this culture, while even if I learn new wisdom from other cultures where it's like, do all these things, and I'm like, yes, this is the type of stuff that makes sense to do. And then you're on the other side with somebody just like, just ignore everything and work. Even if you're not getting paid, just work. If you have no passion for this, just work. Work and do what you got to do to pay the bills, and then don't pay attention to your mindfulness or anything like that. Just zone out in front of the TV when you get home, and then eat crappy food from crappy places, and don't exercise. And that's kind of the message that a lot of us get in Western culture. Or you get so stressed out that you're not able to really control all of that, because it's like, the more stressed out a person gets, the more impulsive they're likely going to get with those decisions. So even when I know that I'm not making the best decisions sometimes, I'll sometimes still do it, because it's like, it feels good, and usually it's supplementing for some other thing that I'm lacking. Like when I don't sleep well, I'm going to want to eat a lot of sugary, crappy foods. When I don't exercise, I'm going to, want to eat certain, your body wants to eat certain stuff to give you the energy that you're not getting, so if you're not sleeping well, you're going to want to eat fattier, sugarier foods because your body's like, you might need some fat and sugar because you seem like your energy is kind of low. Let me help you boost this up. And so you're going to crave that kind of stuff. If you exercise, it's going to relieve more tension. You're going to feel a lot more alert and clear. And so then your body's not necessarily going to need to try to supplement for the fatigue and all that, like stress. It's not going to need to supplement from it. It's not going to need to supplement it with other unhealthy stuff. You're going to want to eat different things because of that. And because when you start eating healthier stuff, you start acting differently, behaving differently, and having different tasks that you want to do. You get more creative, you get more mental energy, you get more physical energy. You want to exercise more because it feels good. You want fresh air. You don't want to sit inside in a room with the windows shut, like you want to actually like do things when you feel good. You want to socialize, you want to go out and meet with your friends. You don't want to impulsively spend all your money. You'll be able to kind of save a little bit better to actually do things that you desire, that you feel like you actually want to pay to do, versus like, I'm just paying to go out for drinks and like party with my friends and like get plastered because like it takes my mind off of things. And it's like, well, if you don't have to take your mind off of things, then where's your money gonna go? It's gonna go to other things that you can actually sit and think about and enjoy doing, instead of like taking your mind off of the rest of your life, for that matter. It's like because when I think about things, like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with drinking, or there's nothing wrong with drinking or anything wrong with it or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I think about it, just if I take a step back, it's like I can't tell you how many times, when I was really stressed, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, working at a certain workspace, where I would go out with friends. We'd all drop our cars at our houses, take a quick shower, and then rally and meet up at a bar and just drink. And like, it's like, oh, the week is over, let's just forget, let's bitch and moan about our job, and then sit here and drink and then forget, and then that's how you would start the weekend. And then just like go through the weekend like that, just like forgetting how the week was. Like, I don't want to sit home and be mindfully meditating on my crappy week. I want to go out with my friends and get plastered. And then Monday rolls around and I'm like, cool, like, and maybe every so often, whatever, like, it's not like gonna be a big deal, but it's like, if I'm never sitting with my problems and trying to figure out how to get out of that situation, of how to manage the stress, or how to like tailor my schedule so that I'm actually like coping with the stress, versus like avoiding it at all costs all the time and damaging my brain as a method, even if it is temporary damage. It's like you're literally poisoning your brain and your body so that you don't remember. It's like, I don't want to sound like extreme or like I'm judgmental about drinking. I'll have a drink, like, I don't really care, like, but that's kind of what it is. Like, when you take a step back from it, it's like, oh, that's what I do on a Friday night and a Saturday night, is like, I have to do this just so I can go back to work on Monday and then repeat it again every weekend. It's kind of like, how am I going to learn from that? How am I going to get out of that cycle? Like, something's got to give, right? Because you can't keep that up for like years. Well, you can, but you can't really keep that up and grow from it. The same with eating. It's like, just eat unhealthy until the doctor comes up with all these lab results, and it's just like, whoa, you need to eat better, and you're deficient on all these things, or these levels are too high, or these levels are too low. And it's like, yeah, I noticed that mentally I don't feel always clear and alert and great, because I'm not always eating the best and doing what I need for my body and my mind. So if I'm not doing what I need for my body and mind, I can't expect my body and mind to be operating the way that I want them to. Like, that's just how it is, because I'm not putting the energy into it. And so, I don't know, like, that's kind of my very long-winded explanation of kind of how I would interpret those few pages. I feel like I kind of owe you guys like a long episode because I have not posted any episodes on these topics for a very long length of time. And I was actually gonna sit here and read the book in 3 pages at a time and go through and just like record for the whole week. And then I decided that sounds like it's too much speed through this. So I'm gonna try and keep posting these episodes. I do intend to get through the book. I don't want to say how long it's really gonna take me because I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna have to take more breaks. It kind of just depends how my lifestyle is going. Let me see how many more. I forgot how many pages this book has. Let me see how many more pages we have. So the book ends kind of at page 138 or so. I think like around 138 is where it ends, because that's the chapter that has to do with prayer. Yeah, so we're more than halfway done, but at 3 pages at a time it does take a little while. But I think it does help to break it up into smaller bits. But yeah, I hope it didn't like screw anybody up with me taking almost a month from posting. It's just, I've kind of got to, I'm trying to like level out what I need to do for myself too. So, I'm trying not to like overly strain. Like I'm trying to push my limits when I can, and then pull back when I need to, and try to kind of gauge what that feels like and what that looks like for myself, because I'm not fully clear on it. I'm not fully clear about like what do I need to do, like at what times. So yeah, guys, I'll be posting this one, and hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. And thanks so much for listening.